Right.
Hi Evan, and welcome to the IAG Live studio. Thank you very much for joining me
Great to
today.
be here.
Really
Great to be
appreciate
here.
it. I just wanted to start by really seeing how you'd found the summit and the expo and kind of how it's been going since you've been here. What have you seen and kind of been most interested in?
I think the overall expansion year over year of IAG has been remarkable. Andrew's really focused on this market and really supported the growth overall, and it's wonderful to see the expansion of the expo, and it's become a little bit more inclusive of. Previously, it was more just land-based focused, and now you're starting to see the personality of the suppliers coming out, and it's always great to have these kind of events because the top executives are all here, so you can get business done rather quickly.
Really easily, yeah. And I know that you've been on a few panels as
Yes,
well, because
yes.
obviously the summit's happening at the same time, and spotted you sort of outside of the panels in deep conversation, networking around a coffee. What have you found people have been talking about most over the last couple of days? What are the sort of topics that keep coming up?
I think the regulation of online gaming has been a very hot topic. The future of gaming in the Philippines is really still being debated of whether or not they're going to move forward. So those are in the works as we speak, and we've got some large Senate hearings coming up where I really hope that the politicians will take this time to really educate themselves about the industry, understand that the legal side of the industry has been abiding by very strict rules and regulations, while the illegal side of the industry has not. And a lot of that trouble that's being kind of exposed at the moment in these hearings is entirely coming from that illegal market. So I don't want to, this is kind of the dirtying of the legal market with the illegal. And so that's been the latest topic.
And I mean, we've sort of discussed that there's a Senate hearing tomorrow. So as we speak now, there is going to be more debate tomorrow in the Senate about exactly those issues. And obviously we don't know how that's going to go. We'll have to kind of keep a bit of an eye on that as things develop. But where do you kind of hope things are headed with all of that in light, and thinking about kind of the benefits for the Philippines in this market expanding, and also in terms of customer protection? What do you want the Senate to kind of be considering when they're going into these discussions?
I hope that they can really focus on the fact that it's easier to destroy something than to build something. And right now, the Philippines has a leadership position in gaming and iGaming. And they've tried out a few business models across the years with Pogo and Pigo and IRs going online. And I think that's great. As you can see, it's developed an entire ecosystem around it. And I think that ecosystem will continue to grow. That is, if the politicians allow it. And what I'd like for them to understand is that this gaming market has always been here. We are simply the conduit in which the government is receiving taxes through that industry, and before they weren't. So what you're seeing a lot in terms of the growth in PADCOR tax revenue is largely driven by the fact that this is a largely illegal market converting into a legal market. And I think PADCOR's done an amazing job up until this point, and I think they'll continue, if they're allowed to, continue to regulate the industry in the right direction. What I'd like to see going forward, I would probably say the next hurdle is on the supplier front.
Yes, you mentioned this yesterday in your kind of at the bar session, which was really, really interesting. So there were some concerns around how suppliers are being able to access different parts of the market. Tell us a little bit more about it.
So I think right now, just like the illegal operators are determining whether or not they switch to the legal market, the suppliers are also having that same concern and going through this same thought process. And from their perspective, what they're going to look at is, of course, the bottom line.
Yeah.
Where do they generate the most revenue? And we were at a point where 50% of the market, we managed to turn this from a completely illegal market to 50% legal in a matter of just 3 years. And I think that's an amazing accomplishment. And if that were to be allowed to continue, I would see another 10% on average being dictated towards the legal industry. It just needed more time. And I think that from a regulator perspective, they should take the stance that Padcourt did, which was they entered with high taxes, and then they quickly learned we can't compete against the illegal market with high taxes. So they put in benchmarks of targets to hit, and then as those targets were hit, tax revenue decreased in terms of the rates.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very smart move on their side. And I think they should take that same approach with suppliers. They should have them, which they're doing now, is saying you must have a local entity. That's great.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see them do is not necessarily attack those suppliers from offering their products in the gray market, but to, again, give the carrot instead of the stick. Set up operations here in the Philippines. Train the local population, whether it be developers for slot games or for live dealer, hostesses. All of those are jobs that could contribute to the growth of the industry and growth of the Philippines. And it's one of the hottest industries to be in right now. So these jobs could also go abroad as possible. So I'd like them to potentially give some credits for maybe tax credits for hiring locals, making sure that they're skilled, they develop a career path, and that supplier then would be promoted on these legal sites, and then eventually cut them off from the illegal sites. Because if you do it too quickly, those suppliers, when the player is searching for their favorite game, and it's only being offered in the legal market,
they're only going to go one way.
That's right. So again, Padcourt's been really good with this in terms of their approach of gently moving everybody over, and I think they should be allowed to continue with that.
Continue on that path. And you know, there is obviously it's a tricky balance always with regulation to kind of maintain that viability and be seen to be doing what regulation should do, which is have that consumer protection piece. And it's every market's the same, but it sounds like your concern is really that there is a risk at the moment that with all of this talk of banning and kind of this real clampdown, that there's a risk of undoing the good work that's been done and setting things back.
And to be completely honest with you, I think player protection is essential.
Yeah.
And right now, unfortunately, what we've seen is, and I think that it was not intended to be this way, but I think the BSP has, notified both Maya and Gcash they cannot link to any gambling sites. And I think and then they called for player protection. But what I don't think they understood was there's a layer of KYC to actually create a Gcash and Maya account. Then there's a layer of double KYC to actually play those games, to ensure that everyone is over 21 and all of the requirements are made. And the fact that all of the games that were there were fully licensed.
Yeah.
And now they've closed those channels, and now the players are now searching for those games online.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're being led to the illegal sites because of the rebates and other things that are being offered.
So with all of that in mind, you know, operators from outside the Philippines are obviously looking at this market.
Yes.
You know, they're considering entering, they're probably doing their research. What do you want them to know about the kind of nuances of this Philippines market for them to, you know, if they're coming over here, what do they really need to know about why this is different from operating in other jurisdictions?
I think other jurisdictions, if you look at even Brazil, UK, gambling apps are allowed on the app stores. That is not the case here in the Philippines. Both Apple and Android block. And even the ability to advertise on Google, even though you're licensed, it's been a 2-year fight for them to change their policy in the Philippines. And up until March of this year, I think it was March or June, they changed their policy.
Yeah.
But it's going to take another 5 years, from what I'm being told, for them to change their policy on the App Store. So, and now that there is such scrutiny about accessibility, they're really trying to cut all channels on your mobile device. So that includes social.
Yeah.
So Facebook, TikTok, all of these avenues are being cut. Also, they're even attacking the streamers and closing their sites. So even if you want to call that new media, even promoting a legal product is not allowed. Mm-hmm. Also, there is no advertising to the public and outdoors. So it's their opportunities to advertise are greatly limited.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the challenges moving forward that we as an industry have to tackle.
Yeah, that's going to be quite an unfamiliar
Yes.
nuance to the market for people from outside. And just finally, I know you mentioned as well that there is some specific issues around PGOs and the way that they operate and the difference between them and just straight online gambling. Do you want to sort of clear up a little bit about, you know, any attempt to ban online gambling? Actually, the PGOs might not be affected in quite the way that people might expect.
Yeah, I think what most people don't, including the politicians, don't quite realize is that PGOs are mandated to actually have a land-based operation. So, and it's by year. So first year, I think it's something like 10 retail outlets, and then 20 in the next year. So what you're going to see is small little betting shops instead of the large integrated resorts. And these small little betting shops are actually mandated. So if they actually close online, there are still other avenues that they need to address. And if you're going to then close land-based, then integrated resorts also have to be closed.
But it has quite a knock-on effect.
And then you're looking at the lottery and other forms that are also forms of gambling that they should also then close. And then it's a slippery slope at that point. And what you'll start to see then is, okay, then everything is illegal, but then you still know that there's a already gambling market here. So then everyone that's gaming online or in any fashion would then be breaking the law. And then should you be sending all these individuals to jail? Yes. So that's kind of the difficulty of the industry right now.
Okay. I mean, I would say, sort of from everything that you've said, there's obviously a lot of complexity to kind of tie up in all of this, but there's also a lot of opportunity. So I think that's come through over the last couple of days, that there is opportunity out there and there's a lot going on. What, if you're going to sort of pinpoint your takeaways from being here, what are the things that you're sort of, you know, taking away with you to think about going forward?
I think that the industry as a whole has to unify and have this ongoing discussion with the Senate. That's something that's lacking. Our main point of contact is largely PADCOR. And I would like to see better communication between the Senate or any government organization with the gaming industry, because also we influence many other areas, tourism and whatnot, where I think we can all work together and actually grow the economy overall, not only on the tourist side, but domestic market as well.
Thank you very much. It's really good to speak to you.